Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the Ultimate Wellness Group Transformation Tuesday. Appreciate you all taking a little of your time and joining us today. Got a good program for you today. The subject matter is health tips. So we're going to give you some general health tips today that you can use in your everyday health journey. We also have the Mainstream Minute where we'll be discussing sleep patterns and back pain. So let's ask God for his blessing. We thank him for giving us another opportunity. We thank all of you who have come in to view this presentation. We thank you for your being present, for your taking some of your time. We ask that we all have an open mind and a willingness to apply what it is that we learn, what it is that we gather as information. We also ask for me to get a blessing that I will have an opening of my spirit, allowing me to have my arrogance and my ego removed, and for me to be a vessel for your benefit. So let's get started. Let me see. I got to get these. I don't see the comments coming up. Quiet mode turned on. So hopefully it'll come up. But so let's get to it. The Mainstream Minute for today is from an MSN article that was discussing sleep and back pain. And there are quite a few people who have problems, of course, with back pain. You wake up in the morning and your back is hurting. And we wonder if we did something, or we wonder if something happened. You know, a lot of times we can't figure it out. But on many of occasions, the problem is that we don't sleep in the right positions. And you know, typically I have some things to say and critique about the articles, but today the article was a pretty good article because it's giving some information that's very good that we all need to use. And that is, what position are you sleeping in? So you see there on the top one, for those of you who sleep on your stomach, that really puts your back in a bad position when you're trying to sleep. The one at the bottom is the one that actually is more healthy and more conducive to having your back rest. Because what's the point of sleep? It is to give the body the rest that it needs to be able to improve, heal, and, you know, have that part of the body not be working like it does when you're up and moving around during the day. So that person on the bottom has something in between their legs, and then they also have something underneath their head, because you don't want your head to be too far up or too far leaning either way. I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute when I turn the camera back on me, but that is a good position. And then for those of you who sleep on your back, it is very important that you have something under your legs, because that relieves the tension on the back. When you bend your knees, you actually kind of relax the lower back muscles, and you always need to have something underneath your head because of the fact that the head is usually not allowing the spine to be straight. And so we'll show some other pictures of the spine and other things of that nature in just a minute. But I wanted to deal with that part first. So let's get to what I was trying to show you. So, of course, when you are sleeping at night and you're on your side, you don't want your head to be too far that way, and you don't want your head to be too far that way. You want your head to be right there where it's in line, and that way the neck muscles on this side are not working because it's stretched, and the neck muscles are not on that side. That's why sometimes people wake up in what they call a crook in their neck, which is actually just a muscle spasm. but you don't want that. So in order to not get that, you have to do the things that allow your muscles to rest the way they're supposed to. So those are some good positions. And then the other thing that's very important when it comes to your rest and not having back neck pain is to make sure that you have a good firm mattress. The way that I say do that is that you have to pick one of those positions that were just on those pictures that you saw. And so if you get yourself in that right position and you wake up in the morning and you still have some back pain, it's probably because your bed is sagging. And so the heavy part of your body, the heaviest part of the body is right in here, like this lower section of the body and the hips. So the lower part of the more heavy part of your body is going to do like that in a soft mattress. And that's not going to allow for your muscles to relax. The muscles and all parts of the body are supposed to be in a very low functioning perspective when you sleep at night. And that's what allows things to heal. That's what allows things to not be working. And it allows you to get that real good sleep that will allow you to have the energy and of course, vibrancy to get up and move the next day. So that was a very good article that they had in MSN Health this week. I thought it was a pretty good article. So I wanted to just touch on that and give you all a little information on how you can start working on your sleep habits. Of course, finished with the article, but one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, and unfortunately, Facebook, I'm not getting any comments, and I don't know why, but for some reason, I guess we'll try to figure it out. So anyway, back to the subject. Sleep patterns. It's very important for good sleep to try to have your bedtime at the same time every day. Wake up at the same time every day. It's a bad habit to watch television or to read in your bed. I always suggest to people that your room needs to be as dark as possible. Your pineal gland, which a lot of us have probably heard of and probably done some research on before, is very important at improving the body while we are asleep. It produces melatonin, which helps us sleep. It also produces serotonin, which is the feel-good hormone, which actually relaxes the body and makes you feel in that very comfortable, good feeling. And so when the room is real dark and there's no light, that's when your sleep is the best. That's when your pineal gland is at its best. And that is what relaxes the body the best. So you don't want to have light coming from through your blinds. You don't want to have a light on in your room, and you don't want to sleep with television on. Those are not good habits for the best sleep. You don't want to eat things that will increase your energy before you go to bed. So high sugary foods, of course, caffeinated products, alcohol, and things of those natures don't allow the body to sleep well. Even though alcohol is a CNS depressant, a lot of people think it's an activator because of the way people act when they're drunk. But that's because the part of the brain that is our learned behavior that subdues a lot of our activity is removed. That's what looks like a lot of activity. But alcohol is a CNS depressant, but it doesn't allow you to sleep well because of the irritation that it does when you put it in the body. So alcohol is not good to go to sleep either. And so those are some things that you can use in your daily routines to try to get your sleep pattern better by using those modalities to try to help your sleep. Another one that I don't suggest is, laying in a bed and having conversations, of course, that can, anger you or increase your activation, and reading books that do the same thing. You want to do those type of things, like have your conversations. Of course, married couples, your conversations should be, conversations that are more, kind of calm conversations, not conversations where you're getting riled up and those type of things. And conversations and television watching and reading books should be done, somewhere else other than your bed. I'm not saying not in your bedroom, but if you have like a chair or like a relaxed place where you can read, and then when you get tired, you get up from there and then go to the bed. The bed should be your place for sleep and sex. That's really what your bed should be for. A lot of other activities that we do in the bed kind of lean towards having negative sleep patterns. So I just wanted to touch on that today as a good health tip. So moving on to the subject matters, we're going to get into a few food things and then we'll do some other things. But I wanted to start first because somebody asked about a week ago about acidic foods. They mentioned about lemons, and I think somebody else mentioned about some other acidic foods. And I wanted to have that discussion because a lot of people, of course, I did a program on alkalinity, which is something that I think we should stop saying. We don't want the body alkaline. We want the body neutral. You want neutrality in your body in order to be in your best condition. So when looking at that whole system, the citrus fruits are some of the best foods that you can put in your body. As we all know that have had some, you put them in your mouth, you start chewing, it's almost water before you even swallow it. That goes to show how easy it will coalesce with your body. It doesn't take a lot to digest them. It's very good for your body. So when we have that alkaline acidic conversations, you have an acidic fruit, and then you have acid that has to help break that down. But that's considered an alkaline food because it's so incongruent with the body. It doesn't take a lot of work. So it doesn't take a lot of acid from the stomach in order to break it down. That's what is ease for the body. And that's what keeps your body more in that neutral zone, which is where the body thrives, not in alkaline. The body thrives in the neutral phase. And so that's what you want to do when you think about your food and you think about digestion and how long it takes to digest things. You're going more into the acidic place. So I wanted to mention that because acid foods, like the acidic fruits, are very good for the body. It does not cause acidity in the body. Not at all. Not in the way the body works. If there's anybody new that hasn't seen the program that I did on alkalinity, please check that out. It'll make a lot of sense. Okay, so the other thing about eating is drinking while or after you are eating. We have to get an understanding about that because a lot of people do those things, but I want to explain why it's not good for you. Okay, so let's we're going to go to the computer this time instead of going to the anatomy book. But there's the GI system, and you can see there the mouth, you see the parotid gland, you swallow down that tube, which is the esophagus. You see the pharynx there, but the esophagus is what goes down towards the stomach. And then in the stomach is where you have all of your acid, all right? So we're talking about right there, of course, right there, the stomach, right? You have this acid that is one of the strongest acids on the planet Earth. There you see it, gastric acid is down there by 2, right? So if you are producing gastric acid to break your food down, and then you look over there at pure water, and that's way up here by 7.5, 8.5 is where pure water on the Earth lives, then you are making the acid weaker. You're taking the acid in the direction of going to the alkalinic side, which is not what you want when you're breaking down your food. You want your acid to stay acidic until it finishes breaking down the food. So drinking with or after your meals is not a good idea. It increases the body's need to produce more acid, and it also increases the work of digestion because when you stop the systems from doing what they're supposed to be doing, it's going to have to be more work. You got to make more gastric acid. When that gastric acid is in there, the stomach is still squeezing, but it's the acid and the movement of the stomach that is producing the breakdown of that food so that you can break it down to what we can't see and then absorb it. I hope that makes sense. So please don't drink with or after your meal. You should hydrate yourself prior to eating. And those of you who are eating multiple meals, it's difficult. That's why eating one meal a day as an adult makes so much sense. Because if you have to hydrate before your breakfast and you have to hydrate before your lunch and you have to hydrate before your dinner, we already looked at that in previous programs where the majority of Americans are eating a breakfast and they're still breaking that down when they eat lunch. And they're still breaking their lunch down before they eat dinner. And so you're never really breaking your food down and getting the nutrients out of it that you should when you eat like that. And so it makes a lot of sense scientifically why I follow How to Eat to Live and why it talks about one meal a day. And there are also plenty of research out there. If you look up something called Methuselah Mouse, if you look up calorie restriction, if you look up intermittent fasting, all of those subject matters are dealing with less and less meals, longer periods of time in between meals. And it's being proven that that is what gives you longevity and also improves the health of any person that does it, and usually is the direction to go to get rid of medical problems. Okay, so stop drinking with and after your meals, please. So the other thing that I want to give you as kind of a tool to use to see how long it takes you to digest your food is your burp. You know how you burp sometimes and you smell, or you actually have the taste come up in your mouth of what you ate prior. That's your sign that you have not digested the food that you ate. So if you eat a meal at dinner time and you wake up in the morning and you're burping and you're smelling and tasting that food, it's because it's still in your stomach. See, once the food moves from the stomach into the intestines, that burp won't get that food, because once it goes past the exit part of the stomach, that's called the pylorus, the gastric pylorus. That's a muscle. It's a circular muscle that doesn't allow stuff to come back in. And so we're little anytime. Okay, so here again, we're talking about the stomach right there. Going in the stomach, there's a muscle called a circular muscle. It's called the esophageal pylorus. And then the one here is called the gastric pylorus, which is moving stuff out. So you have the esophagus coming down into the stomach. You have the esophageal sphincter and the gastric sphincter. They are called circular muscles that close down and keep things from going in and out. So if you are digesting something and you burp and you taste or smell it, it's because it's still in your stomach, still being digested. So that's how sometimes you can tell how long it takes to digest stuff, is that you will literally burp the next morning and smell and taste that food that you ate. And so you know that the process is still going on, that you haven't finished digesting that. That'll help you sometimes figure out and have a perfect reality to say, man, that takes a long time to digest that food that I ate last night. And so that's just something that you could take as a, kind of a tool to use. Because if you wake up in the morning and you're burping and tasting food from last night, you know you don't need that breakfast. You might be eating it out of habit. You might be eating it because people have inundated us with an idea that breakfast is the best meal and that you should eat breakfast to start your day. It's all money-driven suggestions, not anything that's based in good health. Okay. Another really important aspect to your good health is chewing. If it's really hard for you to swallow and you're getting this real hard, full, look like your neck is stretching out, swallow, it's because you are not chewing your food well enough. You should chew your food until it almost slides back into the back of your throat. And you shouldn't have to do a whole lot of drinking or anything to get. If you're hydrated correctly, the parotid gland and the submandibular gland and the maxillary glands will produce plenty saliva to help you swallow well. But if you're dehydrated, it's going to be difficult for you to swallow your food. And there's a lot of other problems that come with that I've talked about. And so you have to chew your food very well. Meat takes a long time to digest. The more you chew it, the lesser that time. But it makes sense. It should make sense to us that whatever you're eating, the larger the piece that's going down, the harder your body has to work on that. The smaller, the less work. That should make sense to all of us. So chew your food well. A lot of times I tell people to count 50 to 100 chews. And that would be a lot for most of us because most of us don't chew that much. But that's a good way to start trying to work on yourself, to count how many times you're chewing your food and to pay attention to what size of the food is in your mouth before you start swallowing. And that's a way to work on that. Um, Lastly, from the perspective of eating, I wanted to talk about drinking cold beverages and people that chew ice. You know, when you have something very cold that you drink, especially in hot climates, like I was talking to somebody today that's from Las Vegas, my brother Deontay, and I was here in Houston. It was like 97 or 98 today. You take something cold and you drink it, and you feel this real cold rush that goes down. What is that? That's your esophagus. And then you kind of feel it down here. That might be your stomach. It might be all the way down the esophagus. But if you feel all that coldness down in here, that is the feeling of that cold something that you drank, and it's making your esophagus that we just looked at cold, and it's making your stomach cold. But your body lives at 98 degrees. And so if you're drinking something that has ice in it, then that means, what does ice freeze at? 32 degrees. And so the drink that you have may not be 30 degrees because the ice and the ice is 32 degrees, but the drink may be a little hotter. And that's what the ice does. It's cooling it down. But let's just say that your drink is at 40. Let's say your drink is at 45, 50. That's a big difference than where the body lives at 98 degrees. And so understand that when you drink a lot of cold things, the body has to work to warm that up. It has to work to keep the organ warm. It's only the esophagus and the stomach, but your body has to work to keep that warm. So when you're drinking cold things, you are increasing the work of the body. It also is a shock, no different than if you were taking a nice warm shower and somebody came and threw cold water on you. The same way you jump and do that, that's the same thing you're doing to the inside of your body. It's not good. It's better to drink things that are more room temperature. Let the cold things sit out. I know a lot of people are not going to do that because they like something cold when it's hot, but that's very, very difficult for the body to handle. And those of you who chew ice, understand that that's very bad for your teeth. And you can verify this with your dentist, but chewing ice causes little microchips in your teeth, and your body has to try to heal that. Most people don't even believe that your teeth can heal, but they can. If you ever seen a person get hit in their tooth, get a tooth knocked loose, and it turns darker, but as it starts to heal and the gums start to reseal around it, you see that tooth turn white. So yes, losing blood flow and losing the connection to a tooth causes it to get a little darker, but once it reconnects, it gets back more to its white nature. But those little chips that you're causing, those little very small things that we can't see with our eye, microchips that you cause in your teeth, eventually can lead to other problems, and you start getting teeth pain, tooth pain, and nerve pain. When you get that, drink that cold stuff or eat that icy stuff and you get that brain freeze, that is that cold substance basically causing damage to that nerve. And so sometimes you can chip your teeth enough where hot foods and cold foods cause a serious problem of pain when you're eating things, when you have those type of problems with your teeth. So be careful, those of you who like to suck on and chew on a lot of ice. That's not good for your tooth health long term. We talked about sleep patterns. Okay. So another thing that I had somebody reach out to me the other day, and they were talking about the fact that they have this really sickly feeling and is sweaty and feeling hot feeling when they're sitting on the toilet about to have defecate. And, when I was talking to that person about why that happens, it makes a lot of sense, I think, why we should reject doctors who say that it's normal to have one bowel movement every 2 or 3 days, or it's normal to have 2 or 3 bowel movements a day. No, that's not normal at all. That sweaty, hot, sickly feeling you feel sometimes when you're on the toilet about to defecate is the body saying that it wants that poison out. See, once we finish digesting food and absorbing out of it what we need, that's now a waste product. And waste products in a human body is a foreign object. It's not wanted in the body anymore. We need to get rid of that. And so when you are having that feeling when you're on the toilet, it's because Your rectum has said, this is waste material. Don't want this in us anymore. We need to get rid of this. And that feeling that you get when you're sitting on the toilet is better after what? After you finish going to the bathroom. That's proof your body is telling you that it's in better place now because you got rid of all that poison, that waste material that doesn't belong in the body anymore. If your GI system is working well, which all of us could do things to help improve our GI system, but if it's working well, when you get to the toilet, that's no longer needed in the body. Not wanted, not needed, can't serve a purpose. And so that's why it needs to go into the toilet and serve its purpose to go and fertilize something and help something to grow. Okay. So another thing on another subject is arthritis. A lot of people suffer with arthritis, and I will say this: that arthritis is very easy to fix. It does take dedication. Anything that you solve in the human body takes some effort. It takes some diligence. It takes a dedicated program, but it is a problem that you can solve. And one of the ways that you know that is if you have a joint that hurts, if you have a knee or a hip or a back that doesn't feel well, when you wake up in the morning or after you sit for a long period of time, what is it that starts to make it feel a little better? It is getting up and starting to move. So that's proof right there. When you have a knee that just hurts you when you're sitting all day and you get up, and when you first get up, you're limping, but after you walk for a while, it gets better and better as you move. There is your proof that moving, exercise, and keeping that joint from being in one position all the time is what helps. So there are other things that we can do to help with joint pain. As I said the other day, I can help put a program together if it's necessary for you to help redo your cartilage, but that takes time, as I discussed the other day. But of course, hydration is important. Of course, eating well is important. And for all of you that have joint problems, understand that in my experience, in my 22 years of practicing medicine, after finishing medical school and after finishing my residency program, I have seen that most bad arthritis happens in people who eat a lot of meat. I'm not saying that people that don't eat meat don't have arthritis, because it depends on what you do with your joints. For instance, those of you who like to exercise, as far as jogging, most of the time I see people running, they're running on concrete or they're running on asphalt. Bad habits. It's too much of a hard surface. It causes too much pounding of those joints in the hips and the ankles and the knees. It's going to cause you some issues further down the line. You should be trying to find a track. I'm talking about like a school track, the ones that they would do track meets on. That's a soft surface. There's rubber underneath there. That's a whole system that is made to take the shock out of the body and go down into those materials that they have on the ground. That's what happens when you run on dirt. That's what happens when you run on grass. Much better surfaces. And so if you have an active lifestyle, if you know how to hydrate well, and if you know how to eat well, you can solve arthritis problems. But, it's something that movement is better. Any joint pain, when you move, let's say, for instance, that I injure my thumb. When I try to move my thumb, if I have a lot of pain, well, that's proof right there that you don't need to do a lot of moving of it. But as that pain starts to subside, if I can just move it a little bit, then that's what I need to start doing. And then when I can move more, then I keep moving more, because the more movement is where the healing is placed. Why? Because the more movement, the more blood flow. And blood flow, as we talked about the other day, is where all the immune cells are. And so that's how you send what's necessary to go to that joint, to that area of the body that's necessary, that needs some help. That's what the pain is. It's communication. Hey, I need some help over here. Blood flow goes to where it's called. That's what a pain is. It's like, putting a microphone up there, or a loudspeaker. Hey, I need help over here. The body has to respond. So if you put good things in your body, then that blood flow is going to take good things to that area that needs that help. Hope that makes sense. And again, I'm really apologize, y'all, that I can't see any comments. I don't know. Swipe left. I'm swiping, but it ain't working. So I don't know what's going on. So guess I have to respond to your comments later after I check them out. Okay. Now, Another thing that I wanted to suggest to all of you is that if you ever wind up in a doctor's office and they're suggesting to you surgery, there need to be some real serious conversations with that doctor. For instance, a lot of people have had their gallbladders taken out. It's called a cholecystectomy. Well, there is nothing that can replace an organ that's in the human body. You know, we have these things these days where we have people getting organ transplants. And there aren't very many people that live long with organ transplants. They're starting to live longer, but they're usually on medications that suppress their body. These people are very sickly, can't do a lot of the normal things they want to do. But that's proof right there that you need your organs. So why is it that you do these things that are wrong and you develop these problems and they want to just go and start taking things out of your body? Take your gallbladder out. Well, what's going to do the work of the gallbladder now? And some of you who have had back or neck pain have gone and had these surgeries where, you have parts of your neck that are made to move, right? The spine is moving when you do that, right? All those type of things. Sometimes you get up and you crack when you crack your neck or crack your back, you are just stretching ligaments and tendons. That pop is not going to cause arthritis. That's okay when you pop your neck or pop your joints. That's not going to cause a problem. But what's happening is a lot of people are getting injuries and they're going to doctors and they are getting what they call spinal fusion surgery, where they will take your spinal sections and fuse them to. So if you look at that, you see the red part is the cervical nerves. That's up in like right below your head at the back of your skull down to your neck. Those thoracic nerves start about approximately where your shoulders are, down to the kind of the lower back, but not the lumbar section of the back. That's where you curve. You see that green section, it says the lumbar nerves. That's the lumbar section of the spine. And then you have the sacral nerves. That's all the way down by your butt. Well, all of those sections, the red, the yellow, and the green, are movable. Every time you move, they move. And so if you get a spinal fusion surgery, you are fusing those sections that are supposed to move. So what happens when you have a spinal fusion surgery? So now, rather than being able to turn and look, rather than being able to lay my head downside like that, now it's stiff, right? So now instead of being able to turn, I either look like that or I have to turn my whole body. I hope that makes sense. Lower body, the same thing. If you want to turn your hips, you can just turn them, right? If you want to bend over, you can do that. But if you have spinal fusion, you can't do that. Now, in some serious situations, spinal fusion is necessary. In some young people who have really bad scoliosis, where the spine is curved really bad, sometimes that's necessary. But in injuries, especially when you hear some of these people that have had surgery say that, I had arthritis in my back and the doctor thought it was best to have spinal fusion. Well, what's going to stop you from getting arthritis of the area that they just finished fusing? What happens to you then? We got to start, and that's why I do these programs. We got to start thinking from a perspective of common sense. If you keep doing the same type of activity that caused you to develop arthritis in the first place, and every time you get a surgery, you're less and less mobile. So now, you see people do this sometimes in public. They can't even move because they've had surgery. So much of the surgery and the spinal fusion has caused them not to be able to move very much. That's not where you want to wind up. So activity and understanding how to solve arthritis problems will get you out of those type of situations. And if you have problems with your back now, there are ways that you can improve your back. I've seen plenty of people avoid surgery by doing certain things to make sure that their back health is improved. Okay. So I just wanted to make these comments today, these health tips. So let me also talk about a few myths. I've heard most of my life, you see people with moles on their neck or moles on their face. Well, first of all, moles are and a product of toxin release. The body is trying to get rid of these toxins, and sometimes they irritate the body and develop into moles. But a lot of people think that if you take off a mole, you'll bleed to death. You won't bleed to death. A lot of times, if you take a mole off, it will bleed for a while, but you're not going to bleed to death. If you hold a little pressure on it, it'll stop it from bleeding. So I just wanted to say that because a lot of people believe that if you take moles off, they'll bleed to death. A lot of times when people come to me, if they kind of hang off the face a little bit, you can tie it off and it'll fall off after a while. So no, that's not going to kill you. Another thing is that a lot of people believe that soda causes kidney problems. And so let me make clear that soda never reaches the kidneys. Now, there are some bad things in soda, and overall bad health can affect your kidneys long term. But when you drink soda, that goes into your stomach. We just finished looking at a few pictures of the stomach. And the stomach is going to look at that, evaluate all this sugar and all this acid and all these chemicals and all this kind of stuff. So what am I going to do with this? It absorbs it, and it probably gets sent to the liver. The liver does what it does. Everything that comes out of your kidneys, everything that goes to your kidneys and comes out as urine is something that has been evaluated by the liver. And the liver has deemed it as a water-soluble waste product. And so a water-soluble waste product is going to be urinated out. Fat-soluble waste products are defecated out. Hope that makes sense. So soda doesn't reach kidneys. I'm not saying soda is good. And those of you who think that, I'm not saying that you should start thinking that, oh, it's okay to drink soda. No, it's horrible to drink soda. Soda causes problems with your calcium, causes problems with you keeping your bones strong. It does not hydrate or give you good hydration. Soda is a horrible thing to do every once in a while, but on a daily basis, on a regular basis, a lot of times I'm in public, I see people drinking these big old 44-ounce of sodas and they're coming back and refilling them every day. That is destruction. So just wanted to say that it doesn't cause kidney problems, but it causes a lot of other problems. Okay, now when it comes to injuries, there a lot of times when people go to doctors, they hear, doctors use all these big words and all this kind of stuff. And, a lot of times those words, may make people be impressed with somebody. But if you leave a doctor's office and you don't understand what's going on with you, then to me, that was a failed visit. So I just wanted to talk about joint pain, back pain, neck pain, things of that nature, and what type of symptomatology you're getting and what that means. So let's say that we're talking about a neck problem, right? If you have a neck problem and you can't feel your fingers, well, that is because the section of the nerves that's coming from out of your neck is being affected and it's causing it not to work. Now, most of you probably have sat on the toilet for too long, right? You sit on the toilet, you're paying attention to something else, you're reading on your phone, whatever. And then when you get ready to get off the toilet, your legs are numb. You stand up and they don't even feel like they're going to work right? You got to stand there and move around and get them back right. We've all done that, right? Well, that's an example of an injury that has caused your nerves some issue, pressure, or damage to a nerve where it's not functioning correctly. And when you have nerve pain, that is an irritation or some pressure on a nerve or some pressure where a nerve is traveling through. And so those are two different things. When you have numbness and non-function versus pain, irritation, and nerve pain, those are two different types of injuries. And so I wanted to mention that because when you all go to these doctors and they are talking to you about what is going on with you, you should leave that office understanding that. Most of us have phones. A doctor got a phone, you got a phone. Hey, doc, can you show me a picture and explain what, because it's that important. You should demand that. Don't leave an office and don't understand what's going on with you. It's very important because those are two extremely different realities, how we treat them, how we deal with them. When a person has numbness, tingling, nerve pain, pain in general, or lack of functioning. Numbness and lack of functioning usually goes together, and that nerve pain or pain usually goes together, and that usually signifies a different type of problem. So we have to know that, because it's very important. I'm going to show you all something that's very important for you to understand, how we as doctors can listen to what you say. And I mean, it's a lot of information that we can get from what you say to us. So you all saw that little picture of the spine just a few minutes ago. And here's one that kind of helps you see that from a different perspective, because it's very important for you to understand this. Okay. Okay, so this picture right here is what we call our dermatome map. If you see, a few minutes ago, I talked about the C. The C section of the spine, the cervical section of the spine, is right under the skull, back of the head, down to the shoulders. The T section, or the thoracic section, you see at the green section, is T2 down to T12. You see where that is. Then you have your lumbar section, which is L1 to L5. You see where those sections are. And then the sacrum is the S section, and that is right around in the private areas and the buttocks and some down in the foot. But as you see that, when you're looking down that arm and it says that C5 and 6 and that C3 and C4, and up there in the back of the head says C2 and C3, that's the actual section of the spine where that nerve is being produced. So the nerve that comes out of C2 and C3, as you see there in the back of the head, you see C2 and C3, you see that down by the neck and the jaw, and you see that in the shoulder, C3, C4. So if we go back to this other picture, that picture there, see, you're seeing the cervical nerves, the thoracic nerves, the lumbar nerves, the sacral nerves. Let me show another picture of these. The spinal nerves are what come out of each one of those sections. And as you see, those nerves are to go to a very specific part of the body. And it's to handle everything that is going on in that specific part of the body. Give me just a second. I know actually, this is a better picture. Let me go to this one. Sorry for this, y'all, but I'm trying to make a point. So when you look at those nerve sections, if you see there on the right-hand side in the little like boxes, you see thoracic, cervical, lumbar, sacral, coccyx, right? On the left side of that picture is where the nerves are coming out of that section. See how those yellow things? Those are the nerves that are coming out of there. You see how they run along the ribs? You see how they run along the shoulder and then down towards the butt? You see how they come out? See those big ones down there at the bottom? Short. So we're talking about nerves up here going into the shoulder. Don't do that. Nerves coming out into the shoulder, the big nerves going down there. That's where the sciatica problems are. This is the lower back. This is all your ribs. So again, over here, that's the shoulder there. This is all the ribs here. Those are the big nerves that go to the sciatica. This is the lower back. So everything that you feel, every pain that you have, we can locate it to where it's coming from. We can locate what part of the body is causing that pain. And so that's what I'm saying, that if you have any type of pain syndromes, when you go to the doctor's office, you know how you go to the doctor's office and sometimes they have pictures of body parts and all that kind of stuff. But see, what you have to do is ask the questions to say, well, where is that, happening in me? And what nerve system is that where I am experiencing my pain? And that way you have a way to connect your mind to where the problem is. But that's so important also, because when you start having your mind focused on the solution, that's what you want to do. Your mind can dictate where your body is going to work. Like if I have back pain right now and I close my eyes and I'm meditating and I'm saying, I need to increase my blood flow to the area of my back that's not feeling good right now. So see, I'm moving my shoulders and I'm trying to stretch the area. So I might take my arm and do like this. And that place that's getting tight, that's where the blood flow is increasing. But see, your mind is also concentrated. Your mind is telling your body where to go and what to do. So it's important. I'm saying this for a very important reason because you have to be in control of your health. You can't be ignorant and letting these doctors make all these decisions and leaving you at their will or leaving you at their expense. Because I've seen some horrible cases of people, and this is not to put surgeons down. That's not what I'm trying to do. But what I'm saying is that I've seen some people come out of surgery and they were in bad shape. And sometimes it may not necessarily be the surgeon's fault. They tried to do the best they can to try to repair something that was horrific. Some of you that live wherever you live, you hear these helicopters flying over you a lot of times. You hear helicopters fly over you late at night and you don't live near a base or something like that. A lot of times those helicopters are flying from horrible accidents, people falling off of things or bad car accidents or gunshot wounds or things of that nature. And people have to be rushed to the hospital when something is really in bad shape. They go in there and they try to do the best they can. But sometimes the outcome is horrible. I mean, I've seen people, a person in their leg bone, every time they lifted their foot, their bones in their leg would do like that. You could see it through the skin. The bone was not connected. This guy had an ATV accident and tore his leg up really bad. And of course, down in from the knee down to the ankle, you have two bones. You have a big bone and you have a smaller bone. On his smaller bone, he didn't have enough bone to connect the bone back together. So it was sitting apart like that in his leg. And every time he moved his foot, as his foot moved and that bone would move, you could see that through his skin. So I'm just using that as an example that sometimes they do the best they can, but the outcome is not great. It wasn't their fault. It was a bad accident. But you need to know what you're dealing with. You really need to know so that you can have some foresight and you can have some plan. You can have some of your own ideas on how you're going to be part of your healing journey. Okay. And so for the big boned people out there, yes, there is a reality that some people's bones are bigger than others, but a lot of times people that are overweight like to use that big boned kind of thing. No, your bones were the same size they were since you were 19 to 21. That's where most of us stop growing. And so when you've gained a lot of weight over your life, understand that your organs didn't change size. So when you stopped growing, when your bones stopped growing, that's also when your liver stopped growing and your heart stopped growing and your pancreas and your intestines and your brain. That doesn't mean that you can't grow your brain from a perspective of knowledge, but the size of it, by the time you finish growing from a bone perspective, the whole body has finished growing. So if you were 112 pounds when you were 20, and now you're 45 and you weigh 200, you gained a lot of weight, but those organs are the same size they were when you were 20. So imagine all the extra work. Imagine you go buy a car, and when you buy that car brand new, it says that the tow limit is 4,000 pounds. And you go get a boat that's 10,000 pounds and go get all your friends and coolers of drinks and food and all kind of stuff. You throw in a boat and put all kind of stuff in the truck, car, whatever it is, and start rolling down the highway. You're going to tear that car up. Well, it's the same for your body. All of that extra weight is putting an extra burden on your body, putting an extra burden on all the responsibilities that each of these organs have. It's got to wear you down. It's got to deteriorate you over time. And so that's what we try to do here at the Ultimate Wellness Group, is give you news you can use. And again, I have to apologize to Facebook because I haven't seen any comments. And I usually have some really good ones, some good questions. I apologize, y'all. I will answer them at some point over the next couple of days. Next Tuesday, I will be unavailable. So there will not be a Transformation Tuesday next week, which is, I think, the 17th. Yeah, today's the 10th, so the 17th, but I will be back on the 24th. So look for us back on the 24th. Until then, continue the strong fight, continue the hard fight that is good health in a world that we live in. Good health is something that you have to work hard at every day. Understand that when your health is on your mind is on your health. And that's when you gather information and that's when you put it to use so that you can have a beautiful longevity and you won't have the type of experiences that make life not worth living. So thank you all for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoy giving good information, and I really look forward to getting back on the 24th. And we're going to go into immunizations and detoxification when I get back. Um, I also am going to do a program, probably going to be a joint program because it probably won't take me a whole hour to do sickle cell anemia. But I had some good questions about sickle cell anemia about a month ago. And so we're going to go into sickle cell anemia. And I'll probably talk about a couple other things on that same program. So again,